Oh, man, we got some catchy tunes there, Michael. We got some catchy tunes, filing the nails, looking sharp. Nice background. Obviously, as usual, welcome to UFC Roundup. Michael's in his log cabin in the middle of nowhere, but he's got great Wi-Fi, as usual lately. So we thank you for that, Michael.
Thank
Welcome,
you,
everyone.
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk, thank you for the Wi-Fi that
Yeah.
Michael now has, and we've been smooth. Knock on wood here. We don't, but we've had some glitches in the past, and I think we've been good. We got UFC 288 coming. The UFC is coming back to Jersey. We're gonna get right into it. Let's talk main event. Henry Cejudo is back, and he is challenging Aljamain Sterling, somebody you're very familiar with, the Long Island boys, and this is an interesting match. There's a lot of questions here. How's the layoff going to affect him? I mean, he was one of the greatest combat sports athletes of all times. And I say was only because you retired and you've had years away from the sport. Aljamain Sterling's been in there. He's been mixing it up. He's had Petr Yan matches. He's been Corey Sandhagen. He's been fighting some of the best guys that are out there. What are your thoughts on that, Michael? How does it affect him coming into this title fight?
I just think ring rust is like this mythical thing. Like I'm really not a big proponent for the whole ring rust thing. I think that for Henry Cejudo, he's a guy that has incredible fight IQ. Like in his time off, think about how many champions that he has coached. He's been with John Jones's team. He's been coaching Yuri Prohaska, Zhang Wei Li. So it's not like he's Figueiredo. So it's not like he's been walking away from the sport and not doing anything. He's been staying active. So I think that while some people might say he has lost years of his prime because he retired at 33, you know as well as I do, Paul, that there is a balance. When it comes to fighting, you look at all the champions in the UFC, there's a lot of the champions are older than 30. It's the perfect blend of being a veteran and having experience and having your body preserved. So you think in the 3 years, he's still that same championship caliber fighter. His body is probably recovered. He knows how to train. I mean, if you even look at the way he simulated his last sparring, he did a walkout. He got greased up. He had an announcer in the octagon. Did it seem a little corny? Yes. But what that shows me is he is doing everything in his power to shake what could be potential ring rust. And the one thing I love a lot about Aljamain Sterling, he gets a lot of flack. And for most fighters, he gets a lot. When you get to fight week, you're always asked, like, what's the game plan? And most guys, like, they're really dodgy about that question. They don't really want to answer what the game plan is. I love that Aljamain Sterling is like, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to find a way to get to your back, whether it's a missed punch or a takedown. I'm going to jump on your back. I'm going to ride you like Seabiscuit until you fork up your neck. And then I'm going to choke you out, and I'm going to go home with my belt. So that's one thing I love about Aljamain Sterling is you know what you're going to get, and he'll tell you right to your face, I'm going to take you down and choke you out. Love the confidence, and I love that if Aljamain Sterling wins, there's no controversy. Everybody's like, well, TJ got hurt, or, there's always some excuse that everybody wants to not chalk it up to the fact that he's just good. Everybody wants to be like, oh, that was just a lucky sub on Sandhagen, or that was a BS decision against Yan. I feel like this is the fight where if he beats Henry Cejudo, everybody can just shut the F up and just accept the fact Aljamain Sterling's that good.
I agree, but I don't know if this is the fight, because there's the 3-year layoff. People are always going to find something, and I think that Aljamain has just got to learn to embrace it, right? As the champion, as somebody at the top of a division, especially arguably if the best division right now active.
It is the best division right now, for sure.
Right. It's unbelievable. We just saw Song Yadong again. Just another incredible bantamweight. It goes, the list goes on past the top 15 of how good these guys are.
Absolutely.
But I agree with you on how Aljamain just doesn't hold back on, listen, I do what I do, try to stop it. I love guys that are like that. You got to be able to stop that pressure, and he fights at a distance that almost welcomes. Go ahead. I'm going to kick at you. I'm going to welcome you to come at me. But Cejudo is so explosive. He fights almost with that karate-like stance on the feet. I think he's faster on the feet. I think he's more powerful with his punches. And obviously, if we're going to go wrestling to wrestling, now this is MMA wrestling. It's a different ball game in there when you're in the octagon versus when you're competing at an Olympic level like Cejudo did. But I'm still going to give the edge in wrestling to Cejudo. I think it's going to come down to how did those 3 years really affect him? Because if it didn't, and like you say, if there's no ring rust, man, I think everybody in this division is going to have a really hard time beating Henry Cejudo. I think he's that good.
Yeah, I think he's obviously. I'm going to give the wrestling edge to Cejudo. How could you not, dude?
But I do have a Jamaica Cup here for
you do have a Jamaica Cup. For people that don't know, this might come as a surprise. Henry Cejudo is actually an Olympic gold medalist. Not a lot of people know that. So I would definitely give the wrestling edge to Henry Cejudo. But is he going to be?
Oh, you're saying he wrestled before?
He actually did. He was actually pretty decent too.
Was he a double champ at one point?
I think he might have been a double champ. I think he used to wear a medal around his neck.
Yeah,
with
he
like
did.
two. He did.
Yeah,
but is he willing to engage in the wrestling against a guy? Which it's I think the biggest when you get down to how these guys match up. I feel like the biggest gap in skills would be Aljamain Sterling's grappling compared to his.
Yeah,
I give the striking edge. I'd give the striking edge to, in terms of power, I'd give to Cejudo. And I think that's how he's going to have to beat Aljamain Sterling. He's going to have to find a way inside and land some short, powerful shots. Yeah. I don't see him being able to use his kicking game. I don't know if he's willing to take that chance to use his wrestling. It's what makes this matchup so intriguing,
it is good.
And the one thing I love is we're going to get him for at least 2 more fights if he wins. We know if he beats Aljamain Sterling, we're going to get him for Sean O'Malley because I'm sure we're going to touch on this later. But, all signs point to who's next for both of these guys. So it's going to be a fun fight. And whatever comes after this fight in terms of the Bantamweight Championship is going to be a lot of fun.
All right. Well, listen, before we get into 5 rounds, as we always do, and I'm not working this event on the color side. Are you not working this event? Let's make a pick.
Hell no, I'm not a commentator yet, Paul. I'm going to be sitting right in this spot on my couch looking at that TV.
Yeah, I'm in the same room that I will be watching it on Saturday night as well. Michael, I will give it to you, man. Who do you got?
I am going to give this fight to Aljamain Sterling. I think that his fight IQ is grossly underrated. And while Henry Cejudo has a great coaching staff, people forget who is in the corner of Aljamain Sterling. You're talking about the team that beat GSP, the team that beat Anderson Silva twice, the team that took Khabib Nurmagomedov 5 rounds on short notice. I'm talking about Serra-Longo. So I think that's another factor in this fight that could play a big role. I'm going with Aljamain Sterling. Strong Island, stand up.
You know what? We got a sandwich bet. We got a sandwich bet on our hands. Listen, I'm a huge Aljamain Sterling fan. I consider him a good buddy. I wouldn't say that we're best friends. Obviously, I'm from Philly. He's from New York. We didn't train that much together over the years, but he's a CFFC vet. I was a CFFC vet. I have no stake in the game. I would love to see him win. I'm not calling the fight. I can say that out loud. This is not Jared Gordon. I'm not going to get any grief for that. Be called bias here by anybody on the commentary side. So, but I do think that's Henry Cejudo is a little too explosive, too fast, and we will see how the years have affected him.
Yeah.
But I'm going with that. But
I think you owe me a sandwich before we move on to 5 rounds. I think UFC 287. I picked Izzy, and you picked Baheda. Double or nothing.
The next time we work, that's what we got to do. We just got to. Next time I see you at the Apex, we just Uber Eats.
And if Aljamain Sterling wins, I will eat both of those sandwiches at the same time,
and I will film it. I will film it for the next episode of Roundup. That's what kind of sandwich do you want? If we haven't talked sandwiches yet.
For the first one, in spirit of 287 being in Miami, I want to get a Cuban.
Oh, I love a Cuban sandwich.
And that remains to be seen if Aljamain Sterling wins. I'll think of something else.
All right. Yeah. So maybe like a jerk chicken sandwich.
Chiba Subs in Vegas has a good they got a good little sandwich there. There we go.
All right. Well, with that being said, this is UFC Roundup, and we do 5 rounds. Let's bring up the 5 rounds, Morgan.
Boom.
If Henry beats Aljo, does he call out Volk in his post-fight speech? I'll go. I think if he's going to come back and he goes and gets that first W, the dude's just trying to do things that nobody else has ever done before, right? Why would he be coming back? Maybe he wants some extra cash. Sure, we're prize fighters. But I think a guy like Triple C wants to be Quadruple C. He wants to be all the C's. He wants to win as many belts and accolades as he possibly can. It's either him or Sean O'Malley, and he just wants to keep that belt and keep getting paychecks. What are your thoughts?
I think it's going to be O'Malley. I think that both of these guys have said like their next fight, like Aljamain said, if I win, I want O'Malley, and then I'm going to move out of the division and let Merab work his way up. And I think that's the same for Cejudo. I mean, both of those guys are looking at Sean O'Malley, and he's a tough out. I'm not saying they're picking on like low hanging fruit, but that's just the money fight. You put Sean O'Malley in a pay per view, he's going to draw some numbers.
Sell. It's going to sell.
So I think
Sean's fun to watch. I mean,
he's must see TV for sure.
I was just talking to somebody involved in the UFC. I won't say who, but
yeah,
we were talking about that matchup in particular. If Cejudo were to win, and if O'Malley is next, Cejudo's got an ego, man. He might want to knock him out. Like he might want to prove a point to this kid, and that would leave it in Sean's wheelhouse where it could be an ugly fight, it could be a fun fight, but it would be fun.
It would be a ton of fun. And you know what? O'Malley showed if he can keep Peter Yan at range and beat him, there's no reason. There's nothing that tells me he couldn't beat Cejudo on the feet.
And Sean O'Malley visited me in the hospital when I was in Phoenix after I beat James
really
Vick with a punctured lung. So always
what a guy.
Always a big shout out to Sean O'Malley for visiting.
What a real mensch. What a mensch.
Round two.
Speaking
of Sean O'Malley, I think we got one about him. Does Sean O'Malley have better odds of beating Sterling or Cejudo for the next title matchup at 135?
I'll go first on this one. I think O'Malley would have better odds beating Henry. And I know people are going to think I'm nuts, but I just think when you look at somebody in Aljamain Sterling and what favors his style in terms of grappling is a longer body to get a hold of. It's easier to change levels and get to their hips. Their legs are longer. There's more to work with. There's more real estate to grab. It's like for arm bars. It's hard to arm bar somebody with like Artem Lobov arms, but if you got an arm like mine, which I've been caught by arm bar in my second amateur fight, there's more to latch onto. So I think for O'Malley, I think he would have better odds beating Henry than he would Aljamain Sterling.
I 100% agree with you there. I think the same things, right? Aljamain, it's just, man, once he gets a hold of you, it's a nightmare.
It's different.
There's more to hold on to. Look at what he did to Corey Sandhagen, man.
And that's what I think of. When I think of him fighting O'Malley, I think of a missed punch or capitalizing on a spinning attack and him just latching onto him.
And just like we were talking about with what I said, where I was having a conversation with somebody where we agree that Cejudo might be, he's going to want to, he likes to stand up. He likes to show that he's more than just a wrestler. You know, he's pretty dynamic everywhere. Sean's got a chance in that. If that happens, Aljo doesn't have that ego. Aljo is going to be like, listen, the same as he just said about Cejudo, I'm going to try to get a hold of your ass and put my arm around your neck and put you to sleep and go home. Like, that's what I'm going to try to do.
Yeah. And there's a good chance he could do that against either guy, but I definitely think he matches up better with O'Malley.
Yeah, I agree.
Round three. Almost to the championship rounds. With less than a month turnaround for Burns, advantage or disadvantage? Paul, I'll let you take the reins on this one.
Okay. A lot of times I would think that this could be a disadvantage. However, I think that since he is on a bit of a roll and he's had camps that have lined up and he's fighting Belal, but listen, Muhammad is always in the gym. He is always pushing it and training. However, there is a difference between, oh my God, I'm in a 5-round co-main event. I'm training my butt off for months so that I can get the next title fight, which is Belal's probably one of the guys that's as close to doing that full year as you possibly can be.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a difference. Burns is coming from one camp where he's got a big, huge fight right into another one. So it's easier to just spike the fitness a little bit versus Belal, who's got to be like, all right, listen, I'm not dropping this opportunity for anything. This is what I wanted. It's in front of me now. And there's nothing that's stopping me. And he's a cardio freak. I don't think it's going to be an issue. But in this particular fight for Burns, I do think he has the slight advantage of having a little bit more momentum. He's fresh from the octagon. He's felt the punches. He's felt the arena. It was a big live event in Miami. I'm not saying it's an advantage that he's got a huge advantage over Belal, but in this particular case, him having a fight recently, I do think is an advantage.
You know, and not to mention too, it's the Ramadan thing. You know, I know Belal is, look, for people that don't know what these guys have to do when they're practicing Ramadan, they can't eat or drink anything from sunup to sundown. And Belal is such a gangster that he has had some of the biggest fights of his career during Ramadan, a time of the year when a lot of people in the UFC, a lot of Muslims say, "Hey, I can't fight at this time."
Yeah,
he's one of the few that's like, I'll still do it. He knows how to work around, the parameters of that. But the difference is, it's not like he had a camp and went through that. It's like he was in the thick of it, and then they call him with the Burns fight. He is a guy that's always in the gym. There is a difference between being in really good shape all the time and peaking. Now, on the flip side of that with Burns, you can only peak so many times in a short window. Like, how much can your body take? I know Burns is methodical with his training, but it's like, for me, with just what I went through at 287, I peaked really hard, got to the end, and it was like, well, we got to back off now a little bit. You can't peak harder for longer than 3 weeks. When you're pushing hard, those last 3 weeks, the sprint to the finish line is hard. But I just think about Burns. Burns is in this groove that Cowboy was in. When Cowboy was fighting 2014, 2015, the dude would have fought. He would fight every weekend. And I feel like at some point he just hit a roadblock where it just like, he just wasn't. Tired. He just got tired and he didn't know it. So I don't know if it's, I kind of want to say that the edge, I don't think this is disadvantageous for Burns. I think that's what I'm trying to get at here. I think if anything, it's a little bit more disadvantageous to Belal. I think this fight would be dead even if Belal had a full camp.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean Belal can't win. That doesn't mean that doesn't mean I'm sold that Burns has this thing game, set, match. Belal is hungry.
No, dude.
If anybody can fight through adversity, it is Belal. Like, that dude is very resilient. So if there's anybody that can rise to the occasion on short notice in a moment like this, it's Belal Muhammad.
It is Belal. And I can tell you that I've been through some of those camps. I've been at the practices when he is practicing Ramadan and not drinking or eating anything, bro. And I've seen him go 5 full hard rounds. And then I've gotten to see him at night when it's finally time, when he was, I think at the time, living with somebody else that was going through the same thing, and to see them finally get to, have to, he had a plan, but he also had a plan. He was smart. Like, it was like, Pedialytes and Gatorades and waters. And he would almost practice rehydration like he had just done a cut. So he would get all that in, then he would eat, and he would wake himself up again so that he could eat, so that he would make sure he got enough in for the next day when he would start training. Listen, the dude's an absolute stud. I'm so happy for him and where he's at. And to finally get the opportunity,
if he wins this fight, dude, if he wins this fight, I mean,
I texted him. I was like, bro,
unreal. It would be amazing.
I just think about when I first started training at Rufus Sport and he was there. It was like, man, he was in the grind like me. Like, we were just trying to make a name for ourselves. We had, nothing going on. A couple, we had wins in the UFC, we had bonuses, but we were nobodies. You know what I mean? And to see him get to where he's at now and be one of the absolute top guys, and we're talking about him here on a podcast. It's great.
He deserves it, dude. He deserves it all, and then some.
So big shout out to Belal and Gilbert Burns. You guys are both studs. You're both studs for taking this fight the way you both did. It shows you guys want the next title shot, and you better freaking get it, or I'm going to start breaking stuff in my house. Yeah. Anyway, with that note, let's go to round 4.
I love when you get fired up. What lessons did you learn as an MMA fighter that helped you in your post-fighting career? As a former endurance athlete, my inner strength was cultivated in the trails. I know you can speak to this more than I can, Paul, but I will say my 2 cents. I'm still in the thick of my career. I'm still trying to get in the mix right now. I think that from the outside looking in, I think hobbies. I think that's what helps guys when they're transitioning out of competition. Have hobbies that give you something to push yourself with. I think that's where fighters struggles. We're so used to having something to push our bodies, push our minds. We get so used to struggling. Like, we like to struggle. We like to have strenuous activities and things to work towards. And I think when guys don't have hobbies, when they hang them up, I think that's where they kind of have some struggles.
Yeah, I mean, that was it for me, right? If I hadn't found, starting the race and do all that kind of stuff, I'm sure I'd be much more depressed. I'd be much more kind of lost. And as far as lessons that I learned as a fighter that have helped me in my post career, other than finding triathlon, obviously, but even things that I learned just as a fighter, for me, it was like I enjoy, like you talked about, I enjoy having a schedule, having things that I need to wake up for and do and execute. And I feel like if you're that type of person, you've got to do that even after you're done fighting. It doesn't matter if it's business. It doesn't matter if it's a new job that you picked up. It doesn't matter if it's investing money. It doesn't matter if it's your kids and how you're going to get them ready for school. You're going to do this. You're going to wake up that. If you're an athlete that's fought for so many years, right? We all have I wake up, I drink my coffee, I take a dump, I go to the gym, I hit a run, I go do jujitsu, whatever it is. You got to find that structure and you've got to keep it. I feel like if you're a guy that has been, or a woman that's been an athlete that long, you've got to find something to keep you on task like that post fighting career. It doesn't matter what it is, but you've got to keep yourself accountable like you do when you're fighting, and you'll be all right. So that's a lesson I've learned. And I love that he says he found like his inner strength on the trails and doing that kind of stuff. For me now, as an endurance athlete, somebody that's doing that, for me, I wish I'd incorporated more of this when I was training for fights. Is for me, it's hills, it's running hilly routes is my, like, if I feel like I'm on one day and I got an hour run on the schedule, I will
Like
if
Bobby Green upsets you, you're like, I'm gonna go to that hilly run. I'm gonna.
But seriously, it's like, dude, running up and down hills is it's not fast. It's not something you're gonna post about. Like, look at my speed, but you got to dig deep when you're looking straight up of a, like, I run the Red Rock scenic loop in Vegas. Go run the Red Rock scenic loop. It's 15 miles.
Yeah.
And it's 1,500 feet of elevation gain.
I'm going to bring you out to Hazard Hill where I do my biking.
Oh, bro. I was just thinking that I want to come out there and I want to bring my road bike, and I'll show you how to ride some climbs.
I'll link you up with somebody that can keep up. My old wrestling coach is like, he's been cycling his whole life. So
I'll let him lead the way.
I'll let you guys lap me. You guys lap me, and I'll just kind of hang out in the back.
And then we'll get some delicious beers and coffees while we're in the area.
Perfect. Round 5?
Round 5.
Round 5. If Jessica Andrade wins on Saturday, does she get the title shot, or is she next in line after the rematch? Is Song Yadong the bantamweight prospect that no one in the top 5 wants to fight? And who has the edge in the 5-round co-main event on Saturday from a cardio standpoint? Little loaded question, Paul.
But Michael, I know the first part was something that when we were reading through these before we started to shoot this, you brought up a good point. What about Yan Xiaonan instead?
Yeah, everybody's talking about, I just answered this question this weekend when I was working the desk, and they're like, if Jessica Andrade wins, is she next in line to fight Zhang Weili? I'm like, well, what if Yan Xiaonan wins? Like, this is a two-sided fight. I know she's only coming off one win over Mackenzie Dern, but nonetheless, I mean, Andrade has bounced around weight classes. I think her last 2 strawweight fights, she went 1-1. Chikagan she lost to Chikagan in the rematch, right? They fought twice, didn't they? Either way, she's just bouncing around weight classes, and I think that Yan Xiaonan's getting forgot about it. And I think that if you think about a Zhang Weili, Yan Xiaonan title fight in China, does that not sound like a ton of fun? Like, I think that would be great. They don't train together. It'd be a lot of fun. And I think that, Andrade just kind of fought everybody. I think she should have to staple herself in this weight class and maybe get one more win.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I think that too. It's like, man, you jumping around, you're coming off a loss, just one win, and you jump back into the mix. I don't think so. I don't know if that's accurate, and I don't know if that's what's going to happen on Saturday. And
then the one about Song Yadong. I don't think he's the guy that people are going to be afraid of in the top 5. I think Merab's the guy in the top 5 where people are like,
oh my God.
You just see what he did to Peter Yan, and to know what you would have to go through in a training camp to fight that version of Merab. That's the guy people, would want to deviate from for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that. He is definitely the boogeyman in that division, where it's just like you might as well just stand in the corner and smash your head against the wall for a while, because that's what that fight is going to feel like. It feels like you're going absolutely nowhere. And then what was the last one? Was it
who has the edge? Who has the edge in the co-main?
Okay, both guys I think are very dialed in on being very in shape when they show up. And I appreciate about both these athletes. I think that these are two guys that if you're also a young fighter and you're like, man, who should I really look at to see who I think these two guys are, in my top 5. My teammate from Philly as well, Michael, you fought Sean Brady's another guy where if you're looking at people who are disciplined and actually stay on constantly trying to be an athlete year round, those people are up there. But Belal is that guy. Gilbert writes these notes. He's got motivational, like he is. John Anik always talks about he saw these sheets that he just writes for him.
He's very meticulous in his camp.
Yeah.
And I know how much of a cardio machine Belal is, but I have to give the edge to Burns, just given the fact that he has just been in one constant training camp.
Yeah. Well, yes, in this particular fight, probably.
Yeah, just like rolling right from the Masvidal fight, which was relatively easy on his body, rolling right from that fight into this one.
Yeah.
Before we get off, is there any fights you're looking forward to this weekend?
Main card? Dude, we were just talking about. Thug Nasty is back against Layoff. That's bananas. Where's it at?
That's a great fight. That's
Dober, Matt Frivola. Got to give it a shout out.
I think Dober Frivola is going to steal the show. Dober Frivola is just one of those fights you just know. Like it's like when Gaethje Chandler got put together. You're like, this fight's going to be nuts. Like some fights get jinxed when you're like, this fight's going to be crazy. But this is one of those fights. Like, no, both these guys are going to stand toe to toe. Dober has got a freaking chin on him. Like it's unreal.
It's going to be.
And Frivola's a dog.
Marina Rodriguez is back in the mix.
Kron Gracie.
Charles Jourdain, who's always fun, man. Always brings it. Obviously, Jessica Andrade and Jan, who we just talked about. This card is stacked. It is fun. There's no doubt about that. You do not want to miss this one. I might take a 2-3 hour nap in the middle of the day
just to prepare.
Saturday. It's Ashling's communion. We got a lot of things going on this Saturday, but I will somehow find out time to do an hour and 10-minute run.
There you go.
An hour and a half swim.
Yep.
Nap, communion party, and 288. So anybody out there that says they're tired, suck it up. This is just round up. I'm Paul Felder. He's Michael Chiesa. Let's get this guy a fight soon, all right?
Let's go. Come on.
Here, all right?
Go bored. I want to fight somebody.
A lot of yard work. He deserves it.
Yes, sir. Peace out, everybody. See you guys next week.